Good afternoon, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome. Welcome to Ask Professional series brought to you by the BBPA as we seek to support our community and our businesses, particularly as we wrestle with this new societal norm. I'm your host, Anton James, a marketing strategy consultant and a speaker host. Today, we hope to discuss how to break through as a Black person in the fiercely competitive field of technology. As part of the discussion, we have Nkechi Warfo Robinson, a technology executive, a CEO, a professional bodybuilder, just to name a few. First of all, good afternoon, Nkechi, sorry.
That is okay. That is okay. Don't worry.
You gotta help me out. You gotta work with me. You gotta work with me. Well,
It
before you
is.
get into you, let's go into your. Let me at least let them know who they're speaking to. Is that okay?
It is. It is Nkechi.
Nkechi Warfo Robinson is
That is correct.
award-winning technology executive with over 20 years of experience. She is currently an associate vice president of infrastructure technology solutions at the TD Bank Group. But that's not all. She's a founder and a CEO of Empowered in My Skin Inc., an author, a professional bodybuilder, a host of Empowered in My Skin podcast, and an inspirational speaker with speeches that have been viewed over 7 million times worldwide. Most recently, she was awarded the 2020 WXN Most Powerful Woman of Canada Top 100. Wow. Wow, 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 wow. Very, very interesting. Let's get right into the discussion there. Let's get right into the discussion.
Awesome. I'm excited. I want to first of all thank you. Thank you for inviting me to share energy on this amazing, incredible motivational platform. So very appreciative of being here. Very grateful.
Listen, as I said, thank you for coming. Once again, you have a very impressive and interesting background. As a community, as a community and a one within the community, I am proud to rejoice in your successes. I think it's phenomenal. We got to really highlight some of our successes that when we see them, and I think it's phenomenal. Now, I must tell you though, with so many career hats you're wearing, I would swear that you have to be Jamaican. There's got to be some Jamaican in you put in there. But let me not go on my assumption. You tell me your story.
Sure. So I'm married to a Jamaican. So maybe there's some honorary
There you go.
Jamaican up in there. I could say Wagwan or something like that, maybe. But so a little bit before I get into, I guess, what I do or what I'm paid for, I'll just start with what I'm made for, right? So I am Nkechi, which is my full first name, and it translates to God's gift. So I believe I am a gift of light and love to my husband and family and friends and all those that I encounter, doing the things I've been assigned to do and the people that have been assigned to me by a higher power. I'm gifted to empower, ignite, and create amazing experiences for myself and others. And are we good? You can hear me?
Yeah, we're good. We're good.
Yeah. And, and that is what I do every single day. I'm on a mission. My vision board over there says the best way to become a billionaire is to help a billion people. And I believe that my mission is to help a billion people think in ways that are empowering. And we've heard the phrase empower people, empower people. And that's not something I can sleep on. That is in every email, every interaction, every opportunity, every platform that I'm on. It's really to help empower people or help people think in ways that are very empowering.
Fabulous, fabulous. So, okay, well, that's interesting. That is part of your mindset. How does that? We say, would that be one of your key strengths? And does that differentiate you from other people that you find? Like, what's been your experience?
100% my superpower. It is. No, I'm not. I'm actually not. I'm actually being very sincere. I truly do believe that the energy, and it's not energy that I get from sleep. It is, I can't even, it is the energy that I get from being connected to a very powerful source. And just wanting to, carry that everywhere that I'm with me. And I truly believe that that is a superpower because I honestly see more spaces where that is needed than it's not.
That's actually interesting. Um, well, in your space that you've seen, both from a career perspective, tell us about your career journey. What were some of the obstacles that you came along the way, and how you overcame them.
Yeah, so, I'll be really quick, but I have to take it a little bit back to the beginning, right? So my parents are, I'm first generation, my brother and I, first generation Canadian. We are born to Nigerian parents. And so my parents migrated here in the 60s. My dad first to get an education, and he came as to get an education as an electrical engineer. And his original intention was to get the education and then go back to Nigeria. And if anyone knows about Nigeria, it's the sixth most populous country in the world. It is a powerhouse. And he was going to really help build the telecom infrastructure there. But as part of his, sort of work that he was doing at McGill University, he had a co-op at Bell Canada. And at the end of his university degree, they offered him a job, and he decided to stay. And that's what started the WAFORs here in Canada. So we are the only generation of WAFORs that are here, and it's not a lot of us. And my brother and I were, born into sort of that self-belief, because when my parents came here, they came here with the conviction that, this is a place where they can do well, where they can get an education, where they can start a family, where there's nothing that's going to hold them back, where there's nothing that they can't achieve. And so much so that in the 70s, my dad moved us into an all-white neighborhood. And so not predominantly white, it was all white. And that was in Montreal. And if anyone grew up in Montreal knows that there was a lot of racism back there. So us being the only speckles of Black, and the first Black people that some people came to physically, know, you can imagine, the environment that my brother and I grew up in and had to navigate through. But through it all, I think what, is at the foundation of who I am is my parents never steered away from the conviction of self. They would always say they're Nigerian. I've never in my 48 years, I know, I'm 48. You're like, what? Yeah. And never in my 48 years have I ever heard them refer to themselves as Black, right? They will always stand in their truth, which is they are Nigerian, right? And so, there's some elements of there then. And I think I learned very early from my parents to defend yourself from a position of truth, right? Anyway, and to answer your question with my dad, so that's my foundation. That's my belief system at the core of it, right? Obviously, life happens, and you're exposed to the external world, and then obviously that, creates its own. It challenges your beliefs, but at the core of my foundation, I know that that's always been there, right? Technology just made sense. My brother was cool, and I wanted to hang out with my brother, and my dad had bought him a computer, and I had to push my Cabbage Patch doll aside if I wanted to get any time with my brother and hang out at the computer. And so eventually I got my own computer, and my brother and I, side by side, we'd program games and apps into a Commodore and Atari 64. And I fell in love with programming. And even to this, back then I was one of the very few that, chose that as an elective in high school, and actually did that as, sort of my side hustle back then. And then that just stayed with me. And then I really liked math. I excelled at it in school. I also played piano. And so all of those kind of go together when you sort of study the mind. And so I decided that I was going to do that in university. So it's always been a path to technology. And I got into the technology world from a work perspective in 1998. And I've never looked back.
Wow. Similar. Is your brother also in technology, by the way?
Yes, he is. He actually currently works at Google. Okay. And yeah, so he's been more on the product development side, where I started off as a programmer, and then I quickly was identified as a leader. So I was pulled away from, actual, doing work to leading groups. And so I found a love in the infrastructure space. So data centers, hardware.
Oh, let me slow you down because I want to get to that. Let's break it down. First of all, let's talk about what was your career path. So when you said you were identified, what was that? Where did you first go? How were you identified? How did that process go?
Yes. So as of today, except I just kind of broke that record. I've not applied for a job since 1996. And in 1996 is when I graduated from Concordia University. And I was working at the time for Zellers as a summer student because I was going to go to Ottawa and do a master's in comp sci. And they offered me a job, which then relocated me to Toronto. And I decided, Toronto, you kind of heard about Toronto. Toronto seemed to be like the place, back then. So I took it, moved to Toronto, and I'm sitting there in my summer job role, but now full time. And I'm like, okay, this is, I mean, if I'm not going back to school, I might as well be doing what I studied. And so I reached out to HR and I asked them if they had any openings in technology, like in computers, like any need for people with computer science or math degree. And that was at the time, I told you 1998, just getting ready for Y2K, right? That was like, yes, we need people. And so that was my foray. My salary literally doubled overnight. And that was how I got into tech. I applied for this job, I got it, and I have never had to apply for a job again. I've been tapped, I've been sought out. I have a great network of people that are constantly looking out for me and putting me in front of opportunities, and that has led me to where I am on today.
That sounds absolutely phenomenal. So, okay, let's go back to the other question though. So, along that path, you said you've been tapped and you've been sought out. Despite that, did you have challenges along the way? A, that you recognize A as either a woman or A as a Black or Nigerian, we'll not say Black, as a Nigerian, someone Nigerian or ancestry?
Mm-hmm.
Talk
That's
about
correct. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I actually call myself, I mean, the Niger world has accepted me as one of their own. I'm very proud Nigerian. I think because of the way I was raised, I sometimes forget. My parents never adopted really North American ways, even to this day. So I was back home a lot when I was young. So I actually do a lot of times I'm Nigerian Canadian, right? So I do identify. Yes. So we had a conversation and I know we talked about this a little bit and then I was like, my whole like beginning of my career was riddled with challenges. And so I'll tell you what they were though. They were the cultural challenges, right? So, and what I mean by that is, so in 1998, you do the math, I was born in 72. I was really young when I got into, when I started my career. And when I was identified within 2 years of, okay, this girl's a natural leader, and I was pulled out of the sort of the analyst position and pushed into, a group leader role at the time. You can imagine, I started leading older people really early in my career. By the time I became in the senior level of leadership, everyone at my table was older than me. And it's interesting because all I can hear was be seen, not heard, respect your elders. and imagine, and in technology where, there's not a lot of people that look like you, right? It presented such a huge challenge. And it was really around, unfortunately back then, I think it's not something I would say now, but it's like, it was really that fake it till I make it, but I didn't know that that's what I was doing. But scared through it all because it's like, you feel the imposter syndrome, you feel inadequate, you feel timid, you're afraid to mess up. And so it was, those were all of the challenges. I think, for a big part of my career earlier on, I think I had that whole 1 foot out the door syndrome, where there's not a lot of people that look like me. And then I just realized, I think and this is all in hindsight because I always say that, God's been carrying me through because I didn't know this intentionally then, but my personality has always been magnetic. And I didn't realize the power of that until about 6-7 years ago when it suddenly woke up to it and now start to harness it more. But it's always been able to carry me. And I realized, and what I learned from that is, yeah, your skills, your talents get you into rooms, but it's your character that keeps you there. And so I had the kind of character that could sustain and can grow and can elevate. And, and now that I've caught up to what that truly means, right? It's big for me because I realize how much it can even carry you in your career when you're not necessarily aware of the importance of that,
Interesting. Okay, let's expand on that a little bit. So you said your character carried you through. What are the key character traits that you think distinguish you? You met earlier on, you referenced your perspective. what additional ones did you think carried you through?
So I'm going to speak from a place where I now know. Okay. So right now I have a mantra, and I kind of said that in my early introduction of my identity statement. So I have a mantra every day that says, I create amazing experiences for myself and others. And so I think the kind of character that keeps you in rooms and continues to advance you is one of grace. Um, and I mean, I can go through some of the basic ones, which are like respect and dignity, but I think it's more, it's a grace and awareness that innate in every human is an amazing human, right? And a character where when I walk into a room, I am first human, and then you can, add on the fact that I'm Black, add on the fact that I'm female, add on the fact that I'm super, that I'm brilliant, add on the fact that I'm like all of the other elements that make up who I am. It's about recognizing my own human. And because of I'm the fact that I'm human, then I'm also flawed. And realizing that if I can give space for my flaws, so can I give that to other people. And you'd be surprised just how much capacity that opens up for people to actually be able to collaborate and work and sort of integrate with your ideas and want to be around you. It's I mean I it's still hard for me to sort of unpack it, to articulate it properly, but that's what it feels like.
So a sense of being real, empathetic, bit vulnerable, but open.
Human. That's human. Yes, that's exactly that. Yeah.
Okay, okay. No, that's actually very interesting. Yeah, I
We
was saying.
use that word real, like keep it real. And I always wonder what that is. I'm like, no, just keep it all the way human. Like you're flawed. Like you're flawed. So what, so to me, that's more than just keep it real. No, it's keep it human, and realize that if you're flawed, so are other people around you, and then lead from that place.
Perfect, perfect. Everybody, I'd like to welcome those that came on a little bit late. We are in the process of speaking to Nkechi Warfo Robinson. She is a technology leader at the TD Bank right now. We're going to continue going through. On the bottom of the screen, you're going to see in the chat functions, if you have questions, we'll be asking questions along the way. Feel free to raise your hand and put questions in the chat. With that, let's transition a little bit, because you know what, your personality, it's very surprising. Some would say it's surprising. Why? You're a technology leader. Most think, or there's many that think that, you know what, technology is only for those tech geeks of a certain type. Talk about that. What is your experience?
Yeah, I'd say there's a little bit of a geek in me. Like, I mean, the things that I think I find fun are not, not necessarily what my cool ass Jamaican husband would find fun. I mean, as an example, before I go to bed, I play this game called Elevate. And Elevate helps to test your brain. Like it challenges your brain. It's very abstract. And he's like, why do you play that before you go to bed? And I said, because it slows my mind down. So anyway, yeah, so I have a little bit of some geeky tendencies, but and I'm not sure if I'm answering your question well enough, but I think there's a misnomer. If I can really just kind of break it down, like tech has technologists, and then there are people that work in technology supporting roles. And that's why I say tech is available for everybody. And I think a lot of people think that you need to be a programmer, that you need to be a data scientist, that you need to be like, a software developer or something like that to actually have a great seat in tech. And it's not true. I mean, the fact that technology is everywhere, it's in the clothing that we wear, it's in the way that paper is made these days, the way that the pen, like the things that we use, and it's in every industry. There's very few industries that are absent of tech. If there's any, there are none that are really coming to mind. And it's at the forefront of everything that we do. And so therefore you can be in finance and say that, you know what, I want to be in finance managing a technology portfolio. And through just that work that you're going to do, you're going to start to understand the lingo. You're going to start to understand the trends. You're going to start to be part of, the future of tech and the evolution in that space. And so, every industry needs tech. And I think there's every role in tech, there's roles for everybody if you have a desire to play in that space.
Well, you know what? You mentioned that there. Let's talk a little bit about that because I think there is a general thought that technology, they only think of the technologists.
Mhm.
What are some of the roles so that people even know to mention to their children or someone may be considering that they can support in technology, i.e.
Yeah.
product manager, i.e. whatever. Let's talk about some of the different roles that are not traditional techie, programmer, software developer, and etc.
Sure. So I can give an example of my team that I lead right now. So
Yeah.
on my team right now, I have actually a good mixture of technologists and non-technologists.
Mhm.
And we are in deep tech, right? So we work on so when I call deep tech, I call my qualification of deep tech is like infrastructure.
Mhm.
And so we work on the infrastructure side. And what we do is we do infrastructure delivery. So project delivery of our business for our business segments, right? And so so within my team, I have folks that are architects, right? That actually, you need to actually have experience being an architect. You can either, come up as an engineer, you could have studied architecture, like pure architecture. I have programmers, I have people that need to know how to do automation and write scripts and this and the other. But I also have project managers.
Right.
Some of them never had a technology role before they came onto my team. I have people that work in the space called service management, and service management in technology is, I'm not sure if anyone here, but infrastructure technology and information library. So they're responsible for, when things break, because in tech, things do break. How quickly can we fix it? And then once we fix it, we need to then implement something. It means that we have to deploy something into the existing systems to fix whatever was broken. And then after we do that, there's a cycle of, okay, what just happened and how do we prevent this from happening again? And we call that problem management. And so incident problem change is what we call it. Those folks don't necessarily need to grow up from a technology background, but through the process of growing up in that role, they start to understand technology. They will work with the Unix admins, and they'll work with, the server people, and they'll work with the developers, and together there's an ecosystem of talent and brains and brilliance that is, being able to, sort of work through some of those areas that I just mentioned. And then I have people that really understand how the ecosystem of technology works, and they're planners, right? So they're helping us plan the way the work is going to flow. And so, yeah, so like I said, there's, think about what your natural skills and talents and abilities are, the things that you're interested in, and then line that up to what you believe would be a great supporting role. And in my opinion, I say choose tech, especially as Black people. As much as we've made a lot of movement, in my career, we've made more movement in women in tech. Like, I definitely sit at tables with more.
Hold on there, because that's our next segment I want to go into. I really want to start deep diving into that one. So, but before I do, we have a question from Cleone over to you. Cleone, if you're there, unmute your mic and go ahead. Cleone? Okay, well, Cleone, I'm not sure if Cleone can hear us. Cleone, can you hear us? No? Well, in that case, let's keep going forward, because you know what? Before we even get into that aspect, the last question I really want to have, if someone preparing to go into technology or has interest in there, either on the technology side or the development or implementation or support side, how could someone think about getting into, I think Cleone is ready for us.
Yes, I'm ready. I'm sorry.
No
I was
problem.
giving some gifts to the security officers.
My bank account number is so forth.
I got a Tim Hortons card I can give you. The question I have is about mentorship. In order for you to become as strong as you are, you can't do it alone. So what type of mentors do you have in your life to actually help you to become the woman that you are today?
Yeah, that's a wonderful, amazing question. So, my career started in I was like 25, 26 years old. And I'll be honest with you, I would say maybe up until the age of probably about 35. The way
Mhm.
that I mentored was through watching other people, right? So that is one form of mentorship, is that, watching the behavior of other people that you admire, and then trying to, sort of integrate some of what you're seeing into your own toolkit. Okay. Then there's mentors that have helped me along the way to improve areas where I knew that I was lacking. So most recently, like financial literacy hasn't been my,
Mhm.
whether in my personal life or business I've gone by, because I've led portfolios, but I want to get like a lot better, a lot more strength. I want to shame the shame. Like I just want to stop being embarrassed about, how I manage money and how I look at money and how I can read like a statement, um, I'm losing the word, but like a financial statement, like a balance sheet, sorry. And so once I opened that up, just the flood, like I recently just finished a TD program that my mentor put me through, like put my name in. And so I was blessed to sit at the table with a number of other aspiring executives at TD at the Rotman School of Business. And so, you can use mentorship well, I guess become sponsorship, through the relationship and letting them know areas that you want to grow. When those opportunities come forth, they can definitely put your name forward as a space where more skills development is possible. And then I have what I call my board of directors, right? And so, I have a whole category of, I have tribe, they're my female mentors that will tell me like it is, so they'll allow me to sort of put out a situation to be like, okay, so we're going to eliminate anyone else that was involved in that story, and we're going to really focus on why did you show up like that. So I have those kind of folks that continue to stretch me. And then, yeah, I do have people that I actually now have engaged coaches, right? So coaching and mentoring is a little bit different. And I want to have, the same kind of coach I have in the athletic world. I want to have that in my business world as well. Somebody who's really going to hold me accountable to elevating my human, and so I do that through coaching. But mentoring is so important. Like I run mentoring programs as part of Empower My Skin. I'm a big advocate of mentoring. I do it for both TRIAC and Access. I'm heading up a mentoring program for Black employees at TD and TD Tech. Because it's important. Everybody needs mentors, and it's been a big reason why I've been successful. I have been with amazing mentors over the last 13 years, and it's invaluable.
Well, thank you very much, Cleone, for that. You know what? Based on what you're saying there, I got two feedbacks. One
Would
is
you mentor me?
Is that I can't answer that live, but
maybe
you can reach out to me. Reach out to me on LinkedIn. We'll chat.
Let's see what you can do to get him to reach out after. Question, first of all, in statements to you on that one, it's actually interesting that the fact you said that, because you're actually not alone. And so, and anyone on the line as well, BBPA is putting on what is called the financial literacy, or the master class on financial understanding, both for those that are in the initial stages, whether they're teens or youth or Black-led business professionals. Further, as you and your background there, we also have a program that's for boss women. And it's really helping entrepreneurs better understand the financial components, the needs, the necessary, the systems to get to success. So that just brought up based upon your conversation there. They'll definitely talk a little bit more about that at the end.
Love it.
Circle back a little bit, because Cleone, thank you for that. You were asking a question I was going to be asking next. Success is based upon a couple of things. Skills is one thing, an aspect. What systems, processes, activities would you advise would increase the likelihood? Now, you already mentioned in terms of mentorship, which I totally agree. Is there any systems that you use or activities that you would advise someone to pursue to help elevate them as well?
Yeah. So just a couple. So mentorship for sure. And by the way, I think, especially at my level, and I just want to qualify something. I now mentor with people that scare me. Like I'm inspired by them, and not only am I inspired by them, they scare me. Like I'm getting ready to mentor with my executive VP later on this afternoon, and I enter in because of that. It's not fear, but it's that oh my God, like there's like like there's so much I want to like grab from them that I haven't been able to like sort of really even understand that, like that kind of scare, you know. And coaching is really important. I know I breezed over that. Coaching is very different than mentoring, and as equally as important. And I find that, and I'm not, you know, pay for a coach, like be okay to invest in yourself that way. So important. And then the last one is sponsorship. We all need sponsorship. And if you don't know who's sponsoring you, I would say you need to go and find out. And a lot of times, one of the best ways I've found out, I've always asked people around me, you know, more senior than me, what do you say about me when I'm not in the room? And through that dialogue, I have found out who's in the room and whom do I need to maybe go and start to, you know, build a relationship with. So I'm big on networking, right? Your network is your net worth. And through your networking, you will gain sponsorship. And sponsorship doesn't necessarily need to be people that are more senior than you. People more junior than me put me into an opportunity one day. I didn't even know them. Like, sponsors are going to be those people that are in rooms that you're not in. They don't necessarily need to know you, but there's something that they have learned about you or have seen you perform. And when an opportunity comes forth, they're like, your name is right top of mind. And they're putting your name on lists that you never even dreamed were possible. So that's really important. The other thing is leaders read to lead. So reading's really important. I have a daily practice. Yes, it's daily. I don't miss a day. Every morning from 4 a.m. to 8 a.m. is Ingechi growth moment. You know, I'm stretching my body. I'm putting my physical human into, you know, through a workout. And then at the same time, I'm exercising my mind with, you know, either audiobooks or mostly podcasts, or I'm reading. I definitely am trying to read every single morning, something to just continue to increase my knowledge. And I would say, you know, online, especially in 2020, and still going into 2021, I saw one come through WizLabs today. There's so much opportunity to learn online, right? And so you can advance your technology knowledge. I think even if you don't want to be a programmer, but you want to get into technology, well, why not just do a course on AI fundamentals, like artificial fundamentals or cloud fundamentals, or, you know, they even have finance and tech fundamentals. Like, there's just so much knowledge and education out there. There's the University of YouTube. Like, you know what I mean? If you don't want to pay for it, then find it for free, right? But those are all the top of mind ones that come quick to me.
Wow, University of YouTube. That's very interesting. Now, you know what? Let's explore what you're saying, because we're about to transition into really your leadership there. But you mentioned your day starts at 4 to 8 o'clock. Talk to us. What is a typical day like? You know, oftentimes people see individuals in particular roles, and they like the rewards, they like the trimmings, but they don't know they might necessarily go behind those trimmings. Talk to us about that.
They got there. Yeah. So we only have 24 hours in a day. I have the same 24 hours as everybody. And I just had to learn how to use it the best. And so what I literally did, like 6, 7 years, well, even probably longer than that, I decided how much of my 24 hours I was going to use to actually just do work. Like, you know what I mean? Like just be up and about and doing stuff. And so I decided on 19. Right. And so 19 hours, so 18 to 19 typically. And then the rest is for sleep. And so I'm very, you know, once I'm ready for bed, I had to have a practice that would enable that once my head hits the pillow, I'm out. Like, no, like I do not talk about insomnia. That has never been associated with my name. And so I've learned how to sleep, and you can study how to sleep better and practice it. And once you practice it long enough, you'll start to sleep really, really well. And so the rest of my day is planned, right? Like as much as possible. And I recognize that the best way to have a great day is to start my day taking care of me. And so self-care is not selfish. First 4 hours of the day, I choose 4 a.m. to 8 a.m. because the average person is still sleeping. And then I'm free of distractions, right? And so distractions, I think, are detrimental to success. And so I use that time to work out. As I mentioned, I use that time for my self-care.
Very, very interesting. Okay. Well, let's transition to a different phase now. Really, let's get into your leadership style. One of the questions that they have there is, someone wants to know is, how do you make a move into technology role with a background, a business background?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. So you can, like, depending on what you do in business. So let's just say you're a business analyst. I think like there's a lot of transferable skills. I think the first thing you need to be able to do is you need to take a piece of paper and you need to be able to write down, what do I know, right? Like, what are my skills? Like, what do I know how to do? And then, you would have an understanding of some available technology roles within the technology space. And then you start to see which ones have aligned skills, right? And I know there's gentlemen on this call as well, but women, I really will tell you, like, we hear it enough. You don't need to have everything that they call out. You just need to have a will to learn, right? Truly. And you have to have a desire to be able to sell yourself. And you have to be uber clear on who you are and what you want to achieve in this world. And I promise you that will that will open up doors and that will get people listening. And so, that's the first thing. You need to actually know what you do know. And then based on what you do know, what are the transferable skills? And then what is your capacity to learn? I think it's also understanding that as well. There's a lot of people that say, yeah, I have a good capacity to learn, but 1 hour into a course, they're already dead snoring, right? Like, so you have to really understand your capacity to learn as well. And then I would say, always make sure that, whatever it is that you want to go, that that's advancing your human. I think that that's also important, and that it has a direction. As I mentor younger people, and I don't think that this is just reserved for them, I usually say, what problems do you want to be solving 5 years from now? And that's where you should be positioning your learning right now, and your execution focused on that, And so, because the world is quickly changing, as we definitely saw in 2020, and it's probably, sped up as a result of what we're in right now. And so, we need to be forward thinking always about, where do we foresee things 5 years from now? And then how do we position ourselves now to activate, to be ready?
Very interesting. You've said some very interesting comments along the way. And I've got another question here that was reference to something you said. One, I love your statement, distraction is detrimental to success. I love that. But you mentioned that you, in your early stage of your mentoring, that you follow people. A question is, how do you get into the space to even watch people to be mentored from a distance? How did you do that?
Wow. Okay. How do I do that? Okay. Let me see what comes. Holy Spirit, help me. So I mean, I don't think I can start that answer without really talking about networking. Who matters. It truly, I do believe that that's very true.
So let's ask it different then. How does someone that doesn't network today start to develop and start to excel in networking?
Oh, you're not going to like my answer. I would say you need to really just start. It's like you just need to stop looking at people and start reaching out and saying hello. You need to have your identity statement. Maybe that's the start. Lock into an identity statement. Know that you are somebody who's like exceptional to meet. That has got to be your walking conviction. Like, everybody deserves to meet me, right? And then this is my identity statement, and your identity statement then becomes your in, right? I think you need to be intentional as much as you can with your networking, and there's so many different ways. Like, in this online world, I personally think networking has made a lot easier. I would say I'm going to shut down. Oh, I'm an introvert. I'm going to just shut that down. Sorry to any introverts on this. I mean, no disrespect, but I think you're human. And in certain circumstances, you are quiet. I've met a lot of introverts that when I see them with their friends, they're like the most talkative people I've seen on the planet. So, we need to start boxing ourselves around, especially around categorizations that stifle us and paralyze us, right? And open up ourselves to the opportunity that's possible and available to us. And so, just one, like I said, once you know who you are, that's confidence. That's confidence enough, right? And really start to make little things like Cleone is going to hit me up on LinkedIn. That is a networking, like she just networked. She and I just networked. This is a networking opportunity for everybody. Look at the different names that are showing up, like Jules C. Like I was actually kept that in my head because I'm like, I know that person, but I don't know where. I was going to look it up on LinkedIn. But holla, Jules C, if I know you and if you know me. But yeah, so this is a networking opportunity. Look at all the names here. Errol, reach out to Zara, have a conversation about what you learned today. That is a networking link. Like I'm giving that to you for free. And I'm actually giving you a question that you can use as your opening networking, right? And so we need to stop using these like experiences like this and not recognize the value and the wealth in this experience, right? Like, so there's a lot of wealth here. And you know, that's, I would say this is just a start. And here's why. Because Yutande, right? Nigerian for sure, I'm pretty sure. I could be wrong, but if I reach out to her, I might, in just conversation with her, just realize that she knows somebody who can solve a problem that I have, right? So the networking isn't just what you see here in this window, it is beyond what you can see, you know? And so, you know, never hesitate to use an experience like this to meet one person, because that's your foray into meeting, you know, 2, 3, 4, 5 more people.
Very, very interesting. Very interesting indeed. You're bringing some side notes because yeah, that's part of the obstacle. I've heard many say, I'm an introvert, I can't. And there's many, they put more passion into telling you why they can't and knowing that and not solving the problem.
Yes, right.
Let's talk about some that are in a problem or a perceived problem or maybe real. What advice would you provide someone who's looking to elevate within a realm? Specifically referencing things such as tenure in a profession or a company and the type of roles to optimize. So if someone's in a particular role and they want to elevate and they're not, but they've been there for X amount of time, how much time should they stay in one place? Should they stay in one company? Should they change roles? What do you think? What are your thoughts?
So sorry, there's a lot in that. Can you break down a little bit?
No problem. So right now, in an ideal realm, following your footsteps, you said mentoring is great, networking is great, working with teams, and that will help progress your career up. For those that are not in those scenarios, where they're in a position where they want to elevate, but they don't know how. You've mentioned one thing they can start doing is improving their ability to network. But how do they know, you know what, they've got over and above, they've got to move, they're stagnating, you know, because sometimes they might say, well, I don't know what I don't know. They don't know what necessary to research. They don't know if they've been in a company too long or a position too long. They don't know. What advice would you give?
So one, I think the first thing I'd always say to everybody is, and you know, I say this with a whole lot of love, like a lot of times I feel if we say stagnant is because we don't actually have a documented plan, right? And so I'll always tell everybody, you know, anyone that works in corporate, for example, we have this process every year where we get these performance reviews. And a lot of people for a period of time become their performance review. And what I mean by that is, you know, they get feedback and they suddenly become the feedback. If they didn't like the feedback, they feel dejected. If they love the feedback, they're elated, right? So, but what I say to people is like, you are really going to be the outcome of your plan, your personal development plan. And so if you're ever feeling stuck, the first thing you have to do is look around and ask yourself, can you visibly see, and I'm looking because I have a whiteboard here and I have a vision board over there, like, do you see a plan for your life anywhere around you? And if you don't, then I would say turn down the distractions and just start to write the next step. Forget about creating a plan that's 5 years out, because that kind of scares a lot of people. But the next step, and whatever that could be, I want to meet more people. That could be, I want to know what next job would be right for me. That could be, I want to, if you know a specific role, I want to get into that role. That could be, I don't want to feel this. I don't want to feel like I'm depressed anymore. Like whatever that next step is. And then from there, I would say, then look around in your circle. Do you have people that are available to you at the ready that you can just say, hey, here's the next step that I really want to take in my life, and read it out to them and say, do you, or can you help me? Or do you know anyone that can help me? And the reason I'm saying that, like, I'm really trying to break it down so that people can leave this call if they're in that position and actually do something. Because a lot of times we'll go to these talks and we'll hear big things and it scares everybody from starting. We discount the little things that we can just do today to just move us a little bit out of a problem, right? There's nobody here that's ever fixed a whole problem in one full swoop. Like, I don't know anyone. I work in tech and I know that's not even, like, that's just not a thing. That's not possible. There's always a series of steps. But if you don't start the first of that series, you're never going to see the problem resolved, right? And so, to your point, I think it's really just, what is the next thing that you think would just feel better than where you are right now? That's it. Just start with that. And then look around and ask yourself, do you have the network? And if God forbid you don't have the network, then I would say this is where you now go onto LinkedIn, use the power of social media, like you harness it. Like, I think there's a lot of benefits to social media, to the connected experiences and to the connected world that we have. And then just be courageous and really start to try and do their Google. That's another thing. We actually, Google's one of my, it's on my board of directors, right? Google's one of my advisors, because I realize that there's not a problem I've had in my life that somebody hasn't had in this world and decided that they're going to share about it. Like, typically I can Google every problem I've ever had, and there's some literature or some feedback that comes back that starts to help me start to unpack it a little in a way that I can actually start to, see it unfold in my life, So don't discount the power of Google being a tribe member in your life.
Very, very interesting. Very interesting. You brought some great perspectives. I want to do this. I got a question here for you. You seem to have been born a leader. Do you have any tips on how to develop that leadership skill or ability?
So I have to steal this from a mentor. I call him a mentor. He's dead, unfortunately. But come on, anyone put it up, blow up the chat, man. Dr. Miles Monroe. Who knows Dr. Miles Monroe, right? Just blow up the chat with yes, 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 yes. If you don't, Google, right? Google's your new tribe member. Google Dr. Miles Monroe. He has on YouTube, this University of YouTube, he has a 10-part series on leadership. And the biggest lesson I learned from him is that everybody, and that's why I'm on this mission to help everybody empower, like help the way that they think, because everybody is born with the leadership spirit, but not everybody learns how to cultivate the spirit of leadership, and the spirit of leadership in Nkechi's terms is it's not a title. It's absolutely not a title. It is in your aura, it's in your essence, it's innate within you. It comes out even when you don't speak, and that is, once I learned that and realized that is what has been carrying me. People have seen that leadership spirit and and they knew it before I knew it, and they wanted to invest in it for me. That's really what happened. And then the day that I locked into what they've been investing in, wow.
Well, you see, the good thing is that you're surrounded by people that saw that. How does someone recognize it or know what to look for to recognize it in themselves?
I would say this: does love come easily to you? Because I think the spirit of leadership, personally, I mean, if anyone has watched, if you Google me, your new tribe member, I speak a lot about love. I did a whole, there's a speech on YouTube called Lead with Love. And that to me is the essence of leadership.
Well, you know what? I don't want to bypass it because I want to keep going, but you said Google you. How does someone Google you?
Well, you put my name on Google.
What's your podcast?
Oh, okay. Well, you can Google my podcast as well. Empowered in My Skin is so much fun. I kicked it off in February, and then thank you, COVID-19 and quarantine. Suddenly everybody was available to be interviewed, and I decided I'm going to use this time to become a really good interviewer. And I just, functional speed, I just started it was supposed to be a weekly podcast, and I just started to push out 2 podcasts a week. And I'm happy to say that we're almost on our 100th episode. We were supposed to be on episode 52 in February. And I'm going to be starting season 3 in March. So, you know, that's a lesson for me. And hold on a second. I need to drink. We all have time. All of us. The difference is how we use it. And, you know, quarantine was a period, I'm going to steal from one of my, you know, best friends, bestie Julie Black. She says, you know, come out better, not bitter. And I bought into that. I was like, let me buy up stocks in that. Better, not bitter. And I'm like, you know, how can I be better? And I've used it to get certifications. I've used it to become a better, you know, host. I've used it to challenge myself in my career. I for the first time, I kind of said it, I haven't applied for a job in 1996. And I made a decision in 2020 that I don't want someone to tap me for my next role. I want to set the course for my next role. And literally that just unfolded in a way that I didn't see coming. And now there's 2 roles that I literally submitted my resume for. And I'm proud to say I've been selected for the interview process. So we'll see what happens. But I decided to go after roles that would make me feel like I need to, like that I'm jumping off a cliff and hope that the parachute opens, right? Like I'm insatiably curious about the expansiveness of my potential. And yeah, I just want to see how massive and how, you know, I can expand myself. And I'm really excited about what's possible, you know?
Wow. I tell you, we're running out of time, but we got so much questions. You're giving such great nuggets of advice. Quick questions coming through is, how do you push past the negative energy?
Woo, girl! I don't know who asked that question, but it's like, you have to, yeah, well, one, I will say this again, and it's funny, I do a mindset workshop. So one, you have to be uber clear on who you are. So like emblazoned on my chest is I am positivity. It's like, it's my shield, right? I am love. I am, like, it's on my chest. Like that is my identity statements. That's who I am. And you can't ever put that away for anybody. Like that never goes on sale. There's never a discount on any of those elements that, you know, make up your identity statement, and you hold true to them. And the way you hold true to them is, you know, that once you've identified it for yourself, the world is going to try to prove you wrong. You have to know that. We have life that constantly throws things at us. So we know that there's wrath that's coming. But here's the thing. Are you ready for it? A lot of times when something hits us in the face, we're like, like we're just shocked. I'm like, you're shocked that you've hit another problem in life? Like who do you know in life that's absent of problems, right? Like, so why are you shocked? So that's the first thing, is just know that problems are going to come. And as hard as this may sound, it gets easier with practice. When they show up, thank them for being here. I'm not the first person that said that, but I start to practice that. And I will tell you, I practiced it in the closest relationship I have, my marriage. My husband and I, Jamaican, Nigerian, like it was like battle royale in this house. Like blaze up.
Yes.
And then I got to a point, especially after reading all of these books, I'm like, okay, these books I'm reading can't be wrong. How about if I try it? How about the next time a problem surfaces, I say to him, I am so happy that this is now a challenge for us. How about, let me just try that. Let me tell you something, true story, you can bring him on the show. The first time I say that, he thought I was mad. You're happy about that? I'm like, for sure. This is going to give me speaking material. Because let me tell you something, people do not invite me to speak because my life's been easy. People invite me to speak because I've had to get through challenges, and I seem to have figured out the code or something like that to life, you know? And so yes, every single time, especially after my material's kind of drying up, I need new material. So that's what I started to look at my problems. They are new material. No different than what I just mentioned about my career. I was feeling like I was getting into a rut, like with my current role. And I said, okay, how do I get out of this rut? I'm like, you know what? You go after a role that's going to scare you. That's how you get out of a rut. right? And then you start to work on how you make that happen, right? And so yeah, so I will tell you, like, adversity, I've taken more out of adversity than adversity has taken out of me. That is for sure.
Don't throw stones. They don't throw stones at sour fruit, is a phrase. And listen, we only have a certain amount of time, so I want to go into quick, change gears real quick. Procrastination, coming out of here, so much has changed in a short period of time. What do you see emerging in the IT realm?
Yeah. Oh gosh. So, you know, one of the things I want to do is actually more work in the Black community, because let me just tell you something. Like, I'll be honest with
Plenty
you.
of room right there. Plenty of room at the BBPA. Bring it, come.
Yeah, I, as much as I don't like necessarily being in rooms by myself, you know, and I know we didn't really talk about that, but one of the things I'll quickly say is, you know, in my career, it was, you know, a lot of people are like, sorry, what is it like being a Black female in tech? And I'm like, well, don't throw that at me. Like, it was just about being a Black human in tech, like, just for people to recognize that I was human. That was that was the early fight. And so when I what I've done with my human is I've said, okay, I'm not going to stand. We talked about this very quickly, but I'm not going to stand in these problems. I'm going to stand for them. I'm going to use the spaces that I'm in to try to help more people, to go where I don't see anyone that looks like me, so I could open up the door and bring people along with me. And so I am anal about that right now. Like, the two roles that I applied for, it was a requirement for me to go and actually see, are there Black people there in leadership? And there aren't. And so I was like,
love to hear that, because the reality is many people that have raised up, it's very rare to see any Blacks around. Very, very rare. So I love that
trailblaze. Go in places where you don't see yourself, and that's where you go and leave your trail. And so that's the first. And so what I would say though is, we need to get into data. There's not a company that doesn't collect data. So data is the space to play in. Come on. And you don't necessarily need to be a technologist to get into data. So that's another space. You know, if you want to get into the geeky stuff, you know, then artificial intelligence is a growing space. Data scientists are needed by the masses. And then I would say cybersecurity. Like, come on, there's nothing that we don't touch these days where security is needed, right? Like, our homes need to be protected, our phones need to be protected, our computers need to be protected, like, our humans need to be protected. And so those, I mean, just with the few minutes that we have left, those would be the places that I would, you know, quickly: artificial intelligence, you know, information security or cybersecurity, and data. The world of data is huge.
Nkechi, let me tell you, I have so much more questions, but I've got to stop it there because we're running out of time. But I would be remiss, as a beautiful Black leader woman as well, I want to also introduce an opportunity to give an opportunity to reach to our leader, Nadine Spencer. She's a president. Are you on, Nadine?
I am on. Hello, Nkechi. So I'm taking a day for myself of wellness, and I'm in bed. So that's why I'm not on camera.
Self-care is not selfish. I love it. Thank you.
Yeah, and so I just want to thank you for being on. You know, you embody confidence exponentially. You are what, you know, we as Black women need to aspire to, and being confident and comfortable in our own skin. I was very inspired over this last hour hearing you, and I thank you so much for being on. As you know, we run a Boss Women Entrepreneurship Training Program, and we'd love to have you on to speak to our, you know, we had 115 women on last night. We would love to have you on to talk as an example of what it is when you own who you are and you own your brand unapologetically.
Oh, I would love to. I also want to know how I could be more boss up. So I'm gonna have to figure out this program for myself as well.
So yeah, just great job. Thank you so much.
You level me up. I'm just letting you know. And so, to the earlier thing where I said, who do you watch? Nadine is somebody that I watch who mentors me from afar without her even knowing, right? And so, perfect example of that, of somebody who just walks in her power. And I'm like, yes, okay, let's go. You know, love it.
Thank you. Ditto, ditto. Thank you so much for being here. I look forward to seeing you on Boss Women.
Last question for you. Thank you, Nadine. Last question for you. You know, you mentioned being deliberate to ensure Blackness in your environment? How do you ensure Blackness in your environment from who you hire, who to transition? Because oftentimes we're the last in, first out, and there's no covering. How do you change that system?
Yeah, very, very quickly. Like I'm proactive about it. So for example, I'll give you a perfect example. TD 3 years ago had so 2017 had a women's in technology recruitment event. And I was one of the, and I'm part of the committee, and I was one of the few Black women in the crowd. Come on. And so the next year, sitting on the committee table, I let them know that do not let me enter that venue without you knowing that there's going to be a lot of women that look like me there, you know? So you just have to be boss up like that. You have to be willing to make the table feel a little bit uncomfortable and stretch them beyond what they would typically have done had you not said that. So that's one. Two, it is hard for me to find people with the skills in my space. I'll be honest with you. Like every time I ask for diverse candidacy, I remember one time this one guy walked in and I was like, oh man, I want a diverse slate. And I was looking at the people that were brought to me, and this guy, George Roswell, came in, and I was like, okay, well, he was the best of the list. When he walked in, and I was like, yo, it was a brother. I was like, because you can't identify yourself as Black in a resume, but I was so happy. And for me, he wasn't totally aligned with the role, but I got him into TD in another role, you know? So it's about even just where you may not have the door open, where can you open it somewhere else? And the other thing I do is, because I don't necessarily have I'm not getting diverse slate, I am asking for resumes, you know, and bringing them to our talent team. And I'm like, yo, you know, let's push these out across the organization. Where can we get them in to just start having conversations? Everything always starts with at least a conversation. And so I like to say I'm the queen of starting conversations, you know, and so that's some of my contribution. Other than that, I do get involved in, like I mentioned, Access, TRIAC, and the Black employee, any Black employee resource groups.
Nkechi, let me tell you, we are out of time, but man, you've got to come back. You provided so many nuggets of knowledge. You're a phenomenal, phenomenal, phenomenal background. We need to see more of you. I'm telling you, whenever your schedule allows, we got to see if we can work something out again. Thank you so much for coming today. We really do appreciate you. For those that are in attendance right now, also let you know that this Saturday we have the Community Space Financial Literacy for Black Youth from 10 to 11:30. Next Tuesday we have the Level Up program, the Finance and Funding Masterclass for Black-led businesses. And also remember that we have the Harry Jerome Awards Gala in April, and we're now accepting nominations for the various positions. I thank you for everyone that came. I thank you for, I tell you, I thank you. Really, it was a phenomenal pleasure to meet you and to hear your story. For those that are there, thank you so much for coming out today. I will look forward to seeing you again next week. Be safe and keep safe until next week.